Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Texas Deacon here. Today's date is December the 21st, 2014. The title of today's lesson is The Star of Bethlehem, or Christmas Star. The scripture reading is Matthew 2, 1 through 12. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who was born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where Christ was to be born. They said to him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for it is written by the prophet, But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are not the least among the rulers of Judea. For out of you shall come a ruler, who shall shepherd my people, Israel. Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared, and sent them to Bethlehem, and said, Go and search carefully for the young child, and when you have found him, bring back word to me, that I may go and worship him also. When they heard the king, they departed, and behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Then, being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country by another way. Matthew 2, 1 through 12. 12 verses. That's all we have that we know about the wise men. Of all the stories and sermons and movies and songs and what else is known about the wise men, it comes from those verses. And actually only 8 of those verses, because 4 of those verses, it was Herod inquiring about the prophecy of where Christ would be born. Although we know very little, we can fill in some blanks from using reasoning, and also there are extra biblical sources that will give us a lot of help. From extra biblical sources, we know that these wise men they were Parthian, from an empire of Parthia, which is the east of the Roman Empire. How many were they? There's at least 2. Could have been a dozen. Tradition says 3 because they brought 3 gifts. Now, these wise men probably traveled 700 to 1,000 miles to get to Bethlehem. Now, who were they? They were astronomers / astrologers, educated, and they could have held high government positions. Now, when I use the term astrologer, don't confuse that with today's astrologers. No, they wasn't going to read your palm for $35. Now, some things that we can deduct from what little we do know is they traveled 700 to 1,000 miles carrying very valuable gifts. gifts worthy to present to the Son of God. How did they protect themselves? Extra biblical sources say there were at least 300 soldiers went with them, and it's not clear where it was 300 total or 300 per wise man. Now, they had many, many servants, because the servants had to look after the provisions and all that had to be done. Jesus was probably about 3 years old when the wise men visited, and most theologians and scholars agree on that pretty well. Star of Bethlehem. I went to Wikipedia and got a definition. The star revealed the birth of Jesus to the Magi and later led them to Bethlehem. Well, the scripture doesn't say the star led them to Bethlehem, and there's an indication that it did not lead them to Bethlehem, because when they got to Jerusalem, they were asking about where to find Jesus. So if the star had been leading them the entire way, they wouldn't have had that problem. Theologians, astronomers, have tried to link the event to an unusual astronomical happening, such as a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, a comet, or a supernova. They even try to work in the constellation Leo and Aries. What was the star the wise men saw? Now, we have our definition of what a star is today, but was it their definition back then? I'm giving a lot of my opinion now, okay? Some of it you can verify. I am not ruling out the possibility that they were referring to an astrological star also, although they did see a star. Now, where would they have gotten this information? Extra biblical sources indicate they had access to at least the writings of Balaam. And look him up in your concordance and study him. I've read a little about him. He's a very interesting guy, and I'm going to read more. But the star did not lead them to Bethlehem. They ended up in Jerusalem. Now, we know the star, if it were a regular star that was leading them, how could they know which star to follow? Plus, the star only shines at night. Why would they follow it in the daytime? So, to me, that rules out the possibility of a star as we know it. However, I have a definition, an explanation, that brings it right back down to earth here. There is a phenomenon called ball lightning. And again, I went to Wikipedia to get the definition of ball lightning. Ball lightning is an atmospheric electrical phenomenon, the physical nature of which is still controversial. The term refers to reports of luminous, usually spherical objects which vary in size from pea-size to several meters in diameter. Now, I remember one of my grandfathers talking about ball lightning. He was born in the late 1800s, so back during that time period, you didn't have electrical lights around, and if there was any light at all, it would attract attention. On one occasion, ball lightning came in through an open window, 4 or 5 people in the room, wandered around the room, and went out through the same open window. On another occasion, ball lightning just circled a house a few times, and for some reason went into a rain barrel and boiled the water away. Maybe it was thirsty. One count I read about on the internet where this individual, the ball lightning came into their hotel room and wandered around and again then left. And there's another account about it coming on board an airplane. Now, I knew a person one time that had that actually happen to them. They were flying on a Constellation, an old 4-engine plane for the military. And ball lightning came in toward the front of the airplane, moved slowly down the middle of the airplane. Everybody watching it, it moved within a foot or so of my friend and the others, and then exited out the side of the aircraft and did not hurt any electronics and did not do any damage to the airplane itself. See, ball lightning fits all the parameters described in the scripture of the star, because when they left King Herod, the star was there and they followed it, and it took them to where Jesus was and stood over the house. A real star does not stop, and how could you look up there and determine that it was right over a particular house? You couldn't. And when I say it was ball lightning, that is a term that has been given to this phenomenon. I personally think it was an angelic being. The way that ball lightning acts, from the few accounts that I'm aware of, it seems to be intelligent. It does have intelligence. And I just believe it was one of those forms of life that God created that we don't yet know about, and there's probably a few million of them out there that we don't know about. So until we know the answer, I'm going to stick with my theory. I think it was what we know as ball lightning. Go to the internet, look up ball lightning, and study it. It's very interesting. And like I said before, it does fit the parameters described in the scripture. If you have any ideas on it or any opinions, share them with me, please. So, until next time, may God continue to bless and forgive the United States of America. May God continue to bless the Republic of Texas, and may God continue to bless you and yours.